She was always smiling and cheerful, and was fond of a joke, but there was a shade of reserve about her which her occupation had not quite made her lose. Coarse words always shocked her, and when any young fellow had been badly brought up called her establishment a hard name, she was angry and disgusted. In a word, she had a refined mind, and although she treated her women as friends, yet she very frequently used to say that she and they were not made of the same stuff. Sometimes during the week she would hire a carriage and take some of her girls into the country, where they used to enjoy themselves on the grass by the side of the little river. They were like a lot of girls let out from school, and would run races and play childish games. They had a cold dinner on the grass and drank cider, and went home at night with a delicious feeling of fatigue, and in the carriage they kissed Madame Tellier as their kind mother, who was full of goodness and complaisance. The house had two entrances. At the corner there was a sort of tap-room, which sailors and the lower orders frequented at night, and she had two girls whose special duty it was to wait on them, with the assistance of Frederick, a short, light-haired, beardless fellow as strong as a horse. They set the half-bottles of wine and the jugs of beer on the shaky marble tables before the customers, and then urged the men to drink. The three other girls, there were only 5 of them, formed a kind of aristocracy, and they remained with the company on the first floor, unless they were wanted downstairs and there was nobody on the first floor. The Salon de Jupiter, where the tradesmen used to meet, was papered in blue and embellished with a large drawing representing Leda and the Swan. The room was reached by a winding staircase through a narrow door opening on the street, and above this door a lantern enclosed in wire, such as one still sees in some towns at the foot of the shrine of some saint, burned all night long. The house, which was old and damp, smelt slightly of mildew. At times there was an odour of eau de cologne in the passages, or sometimes from a half-open door downstairs the noisy mirth of the common men sitting and drinking rose to the first floor, much to the disgust of the gentlemen who were there. Madame Tellier, who was on friendly terms with her customers, did not leave the room, and took much interest in what was going on in the town, and they regularly told her all the news. Her serious conversation was a change from the ceaseless chatter of the 3 women. It was a rest from the obscene jokes of those stout individuals who every evening indulged in the commonplace debauchery of drinking a glass of liqueur in company with common women. The names of the girls on the first floor were Fernande, Raphael, and Rosa the Jade. As the staff was limited, Madame had endeavoured that each member of it should be a pattern and epitome of the feminine type, so that every customer might find as nearly as possible the realization of his ideal. Fernande represented the handsome blonde. She was very tall, rather fat and lazy, a country girl who could not get rid of her freckles, and whose short, light, almost colourless tow-like hair, like combed-out hemp, barely covered her head. Raphael, who came from Marseille, played the indispensable part of the handsome Jewess, and was thin, with high cheekbones, which were covered with rouge, and black hair covered with pomatum, which curled on her forehead. Her eyes would have been handsome if the right one had not had a speck in it. Her Roman nose came down over a square jaw, where 2 false upper teeth contrasted strangely with the bad colour of the rest. Rosa was a little roll of fat, nearly all body, with very short legs, and from morning till night she sang songs which were alternately risque or sentimental in a harsh voice, told silly, interminable tales, and only stopped talking in order to eat, and left off eating in order to talk. She was never still, and was active as a squirrel, in spite of her embonpoint and her short legs. Her laugh, which was a torrent of shrill cries, resounded here and there, ceaselessly, in a bedroom, in the loft, in the café, everywhere, and all about nothing. The 2 women on the ground floor, Lodise, who was nicknamed La Coquette, and Flora, whom they called Balançoise because she limped a little. The former always dressed as the goddess of liberty, with a tricoloured sash, and the other as a Spanish woman with a string of copper coins in her carroty hair, which jingled at every uneven step, looked like cooks dressed up for the carnival. They were like all other women of the lower orders, neither uglier nor better looking than they usually are.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.